Okay, so we are in our countdown to Thanksgiving. It is Wednesday, November 18th. So we have about a week before Thanksgiving. And today I have a story for you called Thanksgiving at the Tapletons. It's written by Eileen Spinelli and it's illustrated by Marianne Kokaleffer. All right, so here we go. And I've seen some of you for art have drawn this. This is called do you know what it's called? That little horn that has all the fruits and vegetables in it. A cornucopia. Yeah. All right, here we go. I'm going to try to do it this way so you can see. Thanksgiving at the Tapletons was always a big day. Thanksgiving at the Tapletons meant, of course, the Tapleton family. Mr. Tapleton, Mrs. Tapleton, Jenny Tapleton, and Kenny Tapleton, and Grandmother and Grandfather Tapleton, and Aunt Hedda and Uncle Fritz, and most certainly, of course, the turkey and trimmings. So there's their whole family, the Tapletons. It was still dark when Mrs. Tapleton lit the oven and took the big turkey out of the refrigerator. Just then someone knocked at the kitchen door. It was Mike, the milkman. "Good morning, Mrs. Tapleton. I thought you might like to make some eggnog for the holiday." As Mrs. Tapleton reached for the eggnog, the turkey slipped from under her arm. Now, on a warmer day, this might not have been a problem, but this Thanksgiving day was quite cold, and the step was covered in ice. Oh no, what's going to happen? Frozen steps, turkey. Look what has happened. Before she or Mike could even think, the turkey had slithered into the yard. "Get it!" shouted Mrs. Tapleton. Mike reached out, but the turkey skidded past him, through the gate, and into the street. "Hurry!" screamed Mrs. Tapleton. "Stop that turkey!" It'd be terrible if your turkey ran away. The milkman chased the turkey. Mrs. Tapleton chased the milkman, and the turkey slid down the hill into the pond. Plop! Splash! Ooh, plop! Splash! Those words sound just like they're spelled. What do we call those? Onomatopoeia. Good job. It bubbled, the turkey. It bubbled out of sight. So it just sunk down below the water. Too bad the pond wasn't frozen, right? When Mr. Tapleton came down to breakfast, he took a long sniff. "I don't smell the turkey," he said to his wife. "Of course you don't smell the turkey," she replied. "You have a cold." "I don't have a cold," he insisted. Mrs. Tapleton shook some pepper in the air. Her husband sneezed. "See," she said, "you do have a cold." Uh-oh, she's trying to play a little trick on him, right? To make him think he has a cold so that he won't realize the turkey is gone. After breakfast, Mr. Tapleton put on his coat and scarf and hat and gloves. "I'm going to the bakery to buy our pies." Mrs. Tapleton handed him his boots. "Wear these," she said. "I know for a fact it is quite slippery out today." How does she know it for a fact? Right, the turkey. Sim's bakery was so crowded the line reached out onto the sidewalk. Mr. Tapleton hated to wait in long lines, so he went to the diner for a cup of coffee. By the time he got back, the line was gone, and so were the pies. No pumpkin, no mince, no rhubarb, nothing. Mr. Tableton was afraid to go home with nothing. 2 boxes tied up with string, please, he said. Mrs. Simmons stared at him. You mean 2 empty boxes? That's right. My, they feel light, remarked Mrs. Tableton. Certainly they are light, retorted Mr. Tableton. Mrs. Sims prides herself on how light her pies are. Oh, so Mrs. Tableton has a secret, and now Mr. Tableton has a secret. Mrs. Tableton set the table. She called to her son, Kenny, you may make the salad. There's lettuce in the crisper and carrots and radishes, too. Kenny's face grew pale. Just yesterday he had emptied the crisper and fed all the vegetables to the rabbits in Mr. Butterworth's class. How could he tell his mother? He couldn't. So he covered the empty salad bowl with aluminum foil and stuck it in the back of the refrigerator. I don't like where this is going, do you? We now have 3 secrets. All not going to be very tasty. When the others went to pick up the relatives at the train station, Jenny stayed behind to mash the potatoes. Every year, this was her job. She loved it. This year, she thought, I'll make them even better. I'll use the blender. Just as Jenny flicked on the switch, the phone rang. It was her best friend, Nora. If there was one thing Jenny loved to do better than mash potatoes, it was talk. Jenny talked and talked and talked to Nora, and she might still be talking today had not a wet glump of something hit her on the back of her head. She turned to see what it was. Splat! Another glump hit her in the face. The blender was going wild, and mashed potatoes were flying everywhere. Without even saying goodbye to Nora, Jenny hung up the phone, scrubbed her face, and wiped mashed potatoes from nearly everything in the kitchen. She finished just as the others came back. Uncle Fritz patted his stomach. I'm hungry, he said. Grandfather Tableton laughed. I'm as hungry as an elephant. Here's another simile. As hungry as an elephant. Everyone sat down at the table. It was a Tableton tradition for grandmother to say the Thanksgiving prayer. As soon as the turkey is ready, she smiled. I'm as hungry as 2 elephants, said grandfather. Mr. Tableton went to the oven. I'll carve the turkey now. He opened the oven door. The turkey is gone! Mr. Tableton searched the table and under the table and in every kitchen cabinet. He looked into the sink and in the broom closet. I can't find the turkey anywhere. Mrs. Tableton took a deep breath. She told them how their fine turkey had slipped out the door and down the steps and across the yard and through the gate and down the street and plop, splash, into the pond. So much for the turkey, said Uncle Fritz, and his stomach rumbled a little louder. Never mind, said Aunt Hedda good-naturedly. We'll fill up on the trimmings, all the extras and sides. I'll get the salad, Jenny announced. Then grandmother can say the prayer. Jenny set the bowl on the table, peeled off the aluminum foil. But remember, there's nothing there. Everyone stared at the salad that was not there. I fed the rabbits at school, confessed Kenny. Uncle Fritz looked downright gloomy. So much for the salad. His stomach rumbled again. I'm as hungry as 3 elephants, sighed grandfather. Kenny jumped. We'll have Jenny's mashed potatoes. He brought the pot from the kitchen and lifted the lid. I was on the phone, said Jenny meekly, and the blender went wild. So much for the potatoes. Uncle Fritz's stomach rumbled even more. I'm as hungry as 4 elephants, declared grandfather. The pies, cried Mrs. Tableton. I'll get the pies. I'll say grace as soon as the pies are cut, grandmother smiled. Mrs. Tableton brought in the boxes, set them down, and untied the string. You brought home 2 empty boxes? She glared at Mr. Tableton, who covered his ears. 5 elephants, groaned Grandfather. The dining room was quiet. Everyone looked down at the empty table. Uncle Fritz muttered something, but it could not be heard above the rumble of his stomach. A tear rolled down Jenny's cheek. "No Thanksgiving dinner," she sniffled. "Nothing to say a prayer for," sighed Kenny. Grandmother smiled. "Of course there is something. There is more to Thanksgiving than turkey and trimmings." And then Grandmother Tableton asked everyone to bow their head and hold hands around the dining room table. "And this is the prayer," she said. "Turkeys come and turkeys go, and trimmings can be lost, we know. But we're together, that's what matters, not what's served upon the platters. Amen." "That was a wonderful prayer," said Aunt Hedda. Mrs. Tableton jumped up. "We have liverwurst and cheese in the refrigerator." Liverwurst is kind of like a liver sausage. "I'll help fix the sandwiches," offered Mr. Tableton. Jenny wiped her tears away. "I'll get the pickles." Kenny laughed. "I'll open a jar of applesauce for dessert." And so the Tabletons had their Thanksgiving dinner after all. Uncle Fritz's stomach stopped rumbling, and Grandfather Tableton ate enough liverwurst to feed 6 elephants. In fact, everyone had plenty to eat. But most of all, they had each other. And you can see here, hopefully, it says, "Our best Thanksgiving." So it's not about what you have. It's not about what type of turkey or ham or whatever you eat, but that you have family and friends to surround yourself. That's a good wish for everyone. No matter what Thanksgiving meal you have this year, whether it's turkey or ham or maybe something completely different your family does, as long as you're with family and friends, that's all that matters. I like this one. All right, guys, this is your story for today. Thursday, we're going to start The Thanksgiving Thief. It's a November mystery. I'm excited to read this one too. Have a great evening.